Hey, what's going on? So I promised you a review of this Tusk Terrabite tire. I did a reveal video of this tire a couple weeks back. That video explains why I bought this tire, why I bought this size of tire. I will put a link to that. It's up here at the top if you want to go revisit that. I don't want to spend too much time on the why. But yeah, if you want to swing over and watch that, maybe you can come back and watch this, or I'll put a link to it even at the end. But I kind of want to just keep this video as a review because I've already done the whats and the whys. In that reveal video, I took this machine out for just a quick little blip around the yard, well, kind of around the roads around my house, just a few miles. Most of it was on asphalt. I found a little bit of gravel, but looking back, it wasn't really gravel. It was really fine gravel, almost like road-based kind of gravel. But I had a few impressions that I'd kind of noticed right away. I mentioned that the return to center seemed like it was gone, like you turn the wheel to the left or to the right, and when you let go of it, it didn't come back to center. The wheels didn't straighten themselves. It kind of stayed pointed in that same direction. Another thing I thought was that the understeer was gone. It was when I turned sharp in that little bit of gravel, the front end would just bite really hard and cause the rear end to come around. So I mean, it felt like the understeer was gone really to the point of oversteer. And I did point out that they are super quiet on asphalt. That's pretty impressive. They really are just almost completely silent on asphalt, which is kind of nice. And I also pointed out that they do track straight. A lot of kind of lower end tires, they have a little bit of wobble in the tread when you watch them going down the road, and these really track and straight and true, which is kind of nice. Seems like they're built really well. Now that I have some miles on it, we took this machine to Rally in the Pines a few weeks ago. We put almost 400 miles on these tires, 393 miles to be exact. And we ran into pretty much every terrain that's typical for out here in the West. I'm going to throw some video up and just have it running while I'm talking, just so you can kind of see the different terrain that we found. Dirt roads, gravel roads. We found some rocky roads, some rocky trails, some muddy roads with rocks in them and mud. I mean, we literally found every terrain that you're going to find out here in the West. So I think we have a pretty good idea of what these things are going to do based on what we've put them through already. So the first thing I really noticed was, once we had it out on a real gravel road, with real gravel, I did notice the understeer isn't completely gone like I thought. You get it on a really heavy kind of gravel road, and there's still a little bit of understeer left in the machine. I kind of wonder if Can-Am didn't design it that way. Maybe I'm giving Can-Am a little too much credit, I don't know, but if I was going to design a 50-inch machine, I guess I would probably design a little bit of understeer in it, just because the machine's so narrow and inherently kind of tippy. You wouldn't want that front end to bite super hard and cause the machine to flip over. So maybe it's that, I don't know, but there is still just a little bit of understeer left, but it's really minimum. I think 95% of the understeer is gone. There's just enough left that you can go turning into a corner and you don't feel like the front end is gonna bite and cause you to flip. There's just enough slide left in that front end that you don't feel like that's going to happen. So it actually feels really good. And now it feels really balanced, to be honest. I'm really happy with it. And I still have the tire pressure set. I set them up initially at 15 psi in the rear and 12 psi in the front, only because that's where I was on my stock tires, and I thought I'd start there as kind of a baseline and tweak and play from there. And all weekend long, I thought, well, maybe if I tweaked the tire pressure, if I did this or did that, and then the more I drove it, the more I just really liked the way it felt. So I left it alone. It really feels balanced. The biggest thing about the understeer that's left, like I say, not only does it feel like it's not going to bite and flip you, but it's consistent. It's the same amount of understeer every time. So now you know exactly how much steering input you got to put in it to round that corner. The stock tires were just absolutely horrible. Horrible lateral traction in the stock tire, which caused a horrible amount of understeer. I mean, this machine has just gobs of understeer, but it was never consistent. You'd turn in a corner, you know, you think you have it figured out how fast you were going and the terrain you were on. So you figured out about how much steering input you needed to do to make the turn. And it was all over the place. It was never the same every time. And the biggest thing now is that it is just consistent. 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, on the throttle, on the brakes, rear diff locked, unlocked, everything. It's consistent every time. So yeah. So like I say, I did think that the understeer was gone, and I can say on a real gravel road in kind of real life situations, it's not gone, but it's perfect for me. I think the machine feels just balanced, and it turns when you turn it, and you know how much steering input you gotta put in it, and you round the corner and come out, and it's just kind of on that edge where in the corner you could give it a little bit of throttle, I think, and swing that rear end out. So you're right there. Yeah, I still, like I say, there's still a little bit there, but it's right for me. I like the way the machine feels now. I at this point, I don't want to feel like or sound like I found the perfect tire for this machine, because the stock tires were so bad, they're such garbage, that I think any decent aftermarket tire would make a world of difference on this machine. I really do. But I'm so happy with this particular tire. I couldn't even tell you. You know, they're $100 a tire for this size, and they completely transformed the way this machine rides and feels and everything. And like I say, they're quiet on the asphalt. They're everything I wanted. You know, I'm super happy. So yeah, some of the things I noticed after some miles on it compared to my initial thoughts when I took it out were just those few things. Some things I found out, kind of new observations. Oh, I should say the return to center that I did talk about in that reveal video, it still does it, but to be honest with you, I never noticed it. So it was something that I noticed when I took the stock tires off and put these on. And then, you know, so my very first time on them, and I never noticed it again. It never crossed my mind again. So I'm sure the problem didn't go away. It was just that I got used to the way it was. You turn the steering wheel, it turns. You turn the steering wheel, it turns. So I never gave it another thought. So if that's something that concerns you, I can tell you it's the concern goes away really quickly. I did notice a nice amount of feedback through the steering. I mean, you get those marshmallow tires off the machine and put a real tire on there. You know, these are an 8-ply rated tire, radial tire. They're also a DOT rated tire, and there's a nice stiff sidewall to these tires, and it gives you a lot of feedback through the steering, which is nice. It really is. You get a good sense from the steering wheel on what's going on down here. You can feel the sidewalls kind of working and making contact and working over obstacles and everything else. It's just it changed everything. So these, I don't know. I wish I'd have got some video of these tires before I mounted them, but you know, these are the stock garbage that I took off, and you can see how just pitifully soft these sidewalls are on these tires, and how, so yeah, these tires, before I had them mounted up, I could sit on these tires like a stool, just sit right down on them, and they would hold me up. And these won't. I mean, I don't need to sit on it. You can kind of see, but you sit on these and they just collapse right to the ground. So there's just a noticeable difference in that sidewall stiffness, you know, for the better. Just like I say, the feedback you get, the responsiveness that you get, you don't feel like the sidewall of the tire is rolling in through the turns and everything else. I couldn't be happier with that. It's got a ton of lateral traction, which, you know, helps with that understeer problem. But I have noticed now that, you know, I used to have to unlock my rear differential when I was on a side hill, because the rear end of the machine would slide downhill. and that's just not the case anymore. I never noticed that at all. There's any side hill, it tracks you straight down. And I ran most of the week down there. I'd say 90% of the time in two-wheel drive with the rear diff locked. Yeah, I never really needed four-wheel drive. So, but yeah, the rear end never slid downhill, which is nice. And there was one trail that we went on that we probably shouldn't have, that had some big boulders that we had to work through. And at one point I needed to pin the sidewall of the tire up against the rock and use the sidewall as a point of traction to get me up and over that rock. And yeah, there really is a decent amount of traction on the sidewall. And, you know, because of that, I guess you get a decent amount of sidewall protection also. So, but yeah, that came in handy once or twice. I still think they were a really good looking tire. I'm happy it just changed the way the whole machine looked. You know, I feel like this machine should have came with 27-inch tires to begin with from the factory, because I think they look right. But I think they're a good looking tire, and I think they look good on that stock wheel. And they do seem to be wearing well. I know 400 miles isn't much time to really get a whole lot of idea, but they do look like they're wearing well. Like I say, I ran in two-wheel drive the big majority of the time. You know, you can see they're scuffed a little bit on the tread, and they are just starting to round on the leading edge of the tread blocks. But I mean, it's so minimal really. But yeah, they look like they're wearing really well. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I could go on and on. I'm tickled to death. I mean, if any of you have seen my post Paiute Trail review, I was a little upset when I got home. I was a little saddened by this machine. It kind of let me down a little bit. But I can tell you now, with these tires, I'm back in love with this machine. It feels right. It drives right. Everything. This is the tire the damn thing should have came with. I think they're perfect. And I know that tire shopping is hard. I mean, believe me, I'm the guy that researches and does his homework on every stupid thing that I do. And so choosing tires was just a nightmare for me. And, you know, if you're shopping for tires, I'm sure you're about ready to pull your hair out too. All I can say really is start with the size of tire that you want and then narrow it down from there. Which, you know, when I was looking for a 27, 9, 12, and choices were kind of limited. And these tires were really pretty universally loved. They didn't have a lot of bad reviews. The reviews they had were that the bad reviews that they had were that they don't measure true to size, which most ATV tires don't. It's just something we all live with. And that they don't do well in snow, and I don't really go out in the snow, so that didn't bother me. But they were just generally positive reviews, and so I thought I'd give them a shot for $100. You know, you can't go wrong. And you know, a lot of you buy a tire, and in most cases, every tire excels in certain areas. They're designed for certain things, so you benefit in certain areas and you compromise in other areas. And so you get a tire and it's like, yeah, you know, I'd like them, and then you start thinking about your next tire. And so you already got your next tire picked out while you just put the brand new set of tires on your machine. I know that's me. But at this point, honestly, I feel like this is going to be my next set of tires. I'll buy another set in a heartbeat. When these wear out, I'll buy another set. I really am that happy with them. So yeah, like I say, I could ramble on forever, and I'm going to try not to. Bottom line is I'm totally happy. Traction, they're just amazing. They go everywhere we point them. The lateral traction, the steering, the handling, I cannot say enough that it just completely, totally changed the way this machine acts and feels and handles and drives over obstacles and everything. It's like I said, this is the tire it should have came with. Very happy with it. But anyway, these are my thoughts, and the only thing left to do at this point really is just run them and watch them. Let's see how many miles we can get out of them. I mean, if any of you guys watching this, if you have this tire, you know, let me know how many miles you have on yours. I mean, like I said, I haven't had mine on very long. I'm sure a lot of you have more miles on yours than I do, but in my mind, that's all it's really left to do, is just see how long they last. And I did buy the same size, you know, front and rear, so I can rotate them, because I'm sure I'm going to wear out the backs a lot faster than the front. So yeah, I can rotate them and try to take care of them that way. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, if you have them, how many miles do you have on yours? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you have any questions, you know, we'll all do our best to answer them. But yeah, money well spent. If you're just looking even to just replace the factory tires that came on your Maverick Trail, you know, these are just a little bit bigger in diameter over the stock. They're almost the same width. They're a little bit narrower than the 9 inchers that were on the back, but not by very much, 1/16 of an inch maybe. But yeah, I say if you're just looking to replace your stock tires with something decent, you know, $400 for the tires. They were shipped for free. I paid, I don't know, $15 or $16 a tire to get them mounted. So I mean, I'm into it less than $500. You know, I didn't have to step up to a 14-inch wheel. You know, that's looking at $1,000 if I had to do that. So these just go right on the stock wheel, and they didn't really increase my length very much, maybe just under a half an inch. You know, and about the same for ground clearance. I got just under a half an inch maybe of ground clearance. It still fits in the garage of my toy hauler. So yeah, if you're just, like I say, looking to replace your stock pieces of crap Carlisles that came on your Maverick Trail, I'd give these a good hard look. Yeah, for $500, I'm telling you, you can't go wrong. And I say for $500, I'd buy another set today. You know, I'm in love. But like, you know, to go back to the beginning, I did say that, you know, the factory tires are so bad that any decent aftermarket tire is probably going to make a world of difference. And you know, that, I'm sure that's true. But I'm very happy with this tire so far. But anyway, stay tuned. I'm just pulling the machine out, and we're heading down to the Paiute Trail here again in a couple of days. So I just pulled the machine out to gas it up and check all the fluids and give it a quick little wipe down, and figured this would be a good time to do this. So yeah, we'll put another couple hundred miles on them in a few days down at the Paiute and see how things go down there. But yeah, anyway, if you subscribe, you know, I appreciate you guys following along, and you know, subscribe to keep up with the build and keep up with the adventure. I do still have one more little addition that I'm waiting for. Should be here in, I don't know, I hope a week or two. One major thing left to put on this machine, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, subscribe, and if you like what you see, and hit the like button down below, I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll just keep an eye on these, and we'll run them and see how they end up. But I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and we'll see y'all out on the trail.